Okay, we are fighting vacations and stuff here in the summer, but it's Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. MicroProfile live hangout, and I don't think we have a link to the meeting minutes in the chat, do we? But I can add that. There we go. Link to the meeting minutes is in the chat. Go ahead and click on it and add your name as an attendee. It's everyone's shared responsibility to take notes, and this is being recorded and will find its way to YouTube. Okay, for today's agenda, sorry, we're adding a couple folks here. I don't know if there's anything else to talk about here. But I left it in there. We'll see if there's anything left. I don't see Roberto on. Gonna cover the namespace.
Roberto told me he's at a conference, so he won't join.
Right. So we have the namespace straw poll wording thread. Sorry, that's a long topic there. I had to scroll past. I want to talk a little bit about microprofile.next. Under marketing, talk a little bit about what's next with the microprofile tutorial. Wouldn't mind getting a budget status. I think I'm going to reach out to Sharon on that one. Of course, I'll CC you, Tabang, just to get a status where we're at with the budget. Make sure we get some spend in before the end of the calendar year to close that out. Any other topics today? Okay. Alrighty. So the first thing first, what I wanted to do is kind of live create the email that I'm going to post to the microprofile working group discussion alias on the wording of the straw poll, right? So yeah.
Are you sharing your screen?
No, I'm not. Thank you. Okay. Here we go. Thank you for reminding me. And okay, so the straw poll, there were two. So this is there's a thread, right? And Nathan replied to this email about crafting the verbiage. One of his replies were, that's wrong Jakarta namespace. Okay, that was kind of a typo. The other one is like the scope of the wording. So the wording basically is right here. Select the namespace options that are acceptable. Can be one, all, or none. Order them to your preferred option first. Right? So here's the options and kind of reorder. Either provide one and only one if that's what you care about, or put them in order if you care. I didn't mean care, but I hope you know what I meant. The comment that Nathan gave, it's the same one that Jan kind of brought up. It's like, well, what about existing specs, right? If we have to make security fixes to existing specs. And I'm kind of thinking that that's an edge case, right? Where I don't want, it gets back to not wanting to confuse people with the wording to keep it as simple as possible. And I don't want to get necessarily bogged down in some of the edge cases. This is more of a strategic question. So I prefer to leave the edge cases out. Now, feel free to push back. That's okay. Um, but that's my reasoning behind not trying to um, you know deal with current specs. Again, it's just keep it as simple as possible. Um, what do folks think of this wording? Not everyone all at once.
I think it makes sense. It's very short and concise.
Yeah, for me also, I think it's very direct message, and you just need to choose the options available on the list.
Okay, Emily and I have kind of worked on this as well. So I think, Emily, are we on sync with what we think this is? This verbiage?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We just correct that typo Jakarta E to be Jakarta dot.
Yeah. So thread index. So I think that was this one right here. Where it's Jakarta.asterisk, not Jakarta EE.asterisk. I think we were working on this verbiage, Emily, during what we were kind of live working the wording and kind of multitasking in that sense. So that's how that slipped in.
Yeah.
Okay, so no one else is. Let me just do a page refresh. It's just a double check that no one updated it, or no one provided feedback just before the call. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do is do this docs.google.com.
So you would expect if this came back that the first choice was no preference, that would be ordered on top. Is that right?
That's correct.
Oh.
That would be listed as number one. I mean, people could still say, no preference, and then one and then the other. Again, I'm not trying to provide too many rules here. I don't know. Leaving it open to interpretation causes problems, and being too strict in providing too much, too many rules about the straw poll, I'm afraid, would also cause issues.
Yeah. And you're going to change from Jakarta EE to just Jakarta because there's no Jakarta EE.
Yeah. Like I said, yeah, I'm gonna. In fact, like I said, I'm gonna live code it here. That was a bug because Emily were just chit chatting while we were drafting up the email, and I think it just was that error was a casualty of multitasking. So I'm gonna do this here. So I'm going to create a doc here. So I'm going to make this kind of the contents of the email I'm going to send out, hopefully during this call. So copy that, paste this in, MicroProfile, namespace, raw poll. Okay, I'm going to put down number 2, but I'm not going to phrase it that way in the subject line. Please respond to this preferred namespace poll by, in 1 week, that would be the 15th, 2025. Select the namespace options that are acceptable. Can be one, all, or none. Order them to your preferred option first. So this would be Jakarta.asterisk. And then no preference. Does any additional context need to be provided, or could this basically be the entire email subject? MicroProfile, namespace, straw poll.
Well, the additional context being that this is non-binding.
Yes. Thank you. It's a good idea. This straw poll is non-binding. Do we want to put anything in there? Let's see. Community versus working group members versus committers. Do we want to say anything in there about that? Or again, does being too specific causes problems as well?
But we do need to basically count them separately, right? So basically, this is the whole purpose for this straw poll is to find out what the working group members think. So even though, anyway, this is straw poll anyway, but we will say we will count working group members separately
How about this?
to for the projection. Yeah, for the future
Intended
projections.
working group. How about this? Members refer only working group members poll. Again, it gets into a lot of context, which I'm afraid could cause problems. But this straw poll is non-binding, intended to determine what working group members prefer.
So that's enough, I think. That's suggest basically.
Oh, I should also add. I apologize. The discussion thread. This is a vote thread. Please, any commentary should occur in the discussion thread. Double check that is raw poll discussion. Okay. Just making sure I have the right link. There. Does this look good? Oh, do we want 0? No. Sorry, never mind. It's not 0, -1. Okay, I'm going to craft the email right now. And send it to the MicroProfile working group. MicroProfile-working group. Subject. MicroProfile. Namespace straw poll. And I am going to copy and paste this in to the email. And oops, let me get rid of all formatting. Come on, where's the remove style? There we go. Okay, I'm gonna hit send. Does this look okay to everyone? What's on the screen? Oops. Yes. Sorry, I gotta fix the formatting in my.
Do you want to? Do we want to indicate please don't add anything else, or do you want to allow people to put in if they have some other flyer? I think at one point
acceptable.
Jakarta MicroProfile was
Yeah,
bandied
from
about.
these 3 options
Thank you.
only. That's a good idea. Okay, and sorry, now that I did this, I need to go in and update my email. Oops. So this becomes remove style. Sorry, I'm editing in my email client. Remove style. There.
The other things can be one. Maybe just we can say can be one or more. You don't want to really say none, right?
I forgot. We came up with the word none because there was a straw poll edge case. I thought. You know. Um. Boy, I'm trying to remember the case for why we'd have none. Even you and I discussed this when we were chatting about this. Emily, there was a case I thought where none came up. Like the case with org eclipse MicroProfile, right? If someone's really hard set on that, they could just do none.
Uh, I guess probably the none means they don't vote, or the now is kind of reprocessed.
And this is the none also came from the original, I think, David Blevins recommendation as well. So if I go back to the meeting minutes, just search for none. Nope, it's not in there. No, that's not what I wanted. Sorry, I'm searching for the wording. No, I don't see it. All right, where did I put it?
maybe we with this actual bracket, is that clearer or cause confusion? Or without a bracket, select the namespace option are applicable, accept from this only. Order them to your preferred option first. Can be one or none.
So actually, I know where I have a copy of it. I think it was in Slack when you and I were slacking about this. I just copied what David had, and that's where you and I started working from. I'm double checking to see if that's where I saw it. Because David stuck it in the meeting, stuck it in the chat during one of our meetings. Did I not do it there? Nope. Okay. I thought it was there. Okay. Okay. Anyway, what do others think? Any other feedback on this? Do we have a none or do we remove the none? There's no other feedback. I'm going to leave it.
Yeah, I think because you choose from the three options only, and if we give none, I mean, add another option, right? So I
True,
would
it is a fourth option.
say I would say just get rid of it.
It's sort of redundant with no preference, I think.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ed.
Grammatically, all doesn't really make sense though, because if
Yeah, or more.
select, yeah.
Yeah, one or more, I will say.
Okay. Again, I'm adding more words here. Trying to make it clear. Select the namespace options that are acceptable from these three options only. Period. Can provide one or more from listed options. Order them to your preferred option first. Okay, how about that?
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, I got to copy this, paste it into my email client, and then remove style. Okay, there we go. All right. We okay?
Yeah.
Alrighty, I'm gonna hit send. Thanks everyone for providing the feedback here. And oops, sorry. Let me also remove the style from that because I don't know why that's like that. Okay, that is weird. Sorry, this is an email client problem. Oops, and because I removed the style, I have to recreate the link. I hope this format's okay in the actual email. Okay. I forgot to, I should have put straw poll in the subject line, which I didn't. All right. Okay. I knew there was something. All right. So we're off to the races on that one. Next thing I kind of wanted to chat about is microprofile.next, right? 7.1 is out the door. Thanks to everyone. And this is kind of there's kind of two questions involved with this, I think. Sorry, I'm going to look for I'm just looking for the other window. Doo-doo-doo. There it is. Move this over to this monitor. Okay, just wanted to see other faces and stuff here, just in case. There's planning microprofile.next in the context of this broader discussion of microprofile in Jakarta. I still like the idea of talking about a microprofile.next. We'll see if it makes sense to do something throughout the discussion, before a final decision is made about moving to Jakarta, right? The one thing that kind of popped up on my radar that I brought up at a meeting or two is multi-app support. So we've got some runtimes like Helidon and Quarkus that are kind of a single app run, right? A single app stack, right? You deploy a microservice with it. Then you have the more traditional Java EE application servers or Jakarta EE that support multiple apps running simultaneously. So the latter use case is supported by some app servers. At Red Hat, we're kind of getting customer requests to do the same. So I was thinking maybe we could start talking about it, because this is going to have to be resolved whether or not it moves to Jakarta or not, I think, right? If it moves to Jakarta, it's actually more important that MicroProfile supports multiple apps. So there's consistency across the entire Jakarta platform. I think we should talk about it here as well, maybe in the context of a MicroProfile release. So, does everyone think that this is worth talking about right now? Or should we just wait?
I have no objections talking about it personally.
Did
Okay.
you post a message on the Google group?
Yeah, a while back, but not in the context of a release, right? Just about the abstract need for it, right? And I think that's where Tommy Tribe said they support it. Pyar replied, but that's a good point. I should probably pull it up and get a link to it. Ba-ba-ba.
And also identify which which spec have some impact on this.
Oops. Yeah, well, that was going to be the next part of the discussion. First, I just wanted to get people's, feel and vibe for doing it. Here we go. All right, so I am going to go into the meeting minutes here somewhere. This should be, oh, it's under releases. Here we go. So this is the thread, and let me pull it up. I'm gonna go full screen. I think. How do I go back F? No, that goes fine. Sorry, now that
So I
Zoom
know
is taking control, I don't have my maximize button. Okay.
I think some spec already have this a multiple application section, but basically
Well, the
specify.
notable exception was health. So I'm
Yeah,
glad Martin's here. That was
yeah.
one that was kind of called out. Martin, do you have any experience with this, not experience, but have you discussed this with other folks at any point in time?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, have you discussed MicroProfile health multi-app support with any other, implementations, people working on implementations, or did they just kind of go off and do their own thing?
So we had this like probably since the beginning because of Wi-Fi. They wanted to have this specified. Basically, I don't really remember, but I know that people were asking. So we basically decided to go with the verbiage that we put there. But since then, we made some decisions, particularly in Wi-Fi, that are not even spec'd, but we had to adjust some of the config properties. For instance, overrides from individual deployments, how they apply to overall health of the server. So basically, I wouldn't take it, like as like starting place, because it definitely needs to be refined. Let's put it this way.
Mm-hmm. But do you, um, but it is something that can be spec'd, right? That we could provide, work with, multiple implementation, multiple vendors could probably sit down and hash this out, right? In terms of the spec and get to a
Well,
common spec.
Everything is possible for sure. It's just very specific to the individual specifications. In health, if I like, for example, we have this property that will disable the overall procedures produced by the implementation. So if Wi-Fi produces some health checks, we have a config property that will disable that. If any deployment will override this config property, like which is deployed after the server is started, should it override the property which was defined when the server was starting or not? And this is the decisions that we had to make in Wi-Fi.
Right. So it sounds like this is something that we could get in a health update, spec update at some point, right? Where we can clarify all this. So we have some commonality among implementations, but there's no API changes. Really, it just seems to be all configuration, right?
Yeah, it's more or less how we define config overrides in deployments, like in this particular case. And that's will be probably not only health, because that will be the same case with any other spec that allows, like MicroProfile config properties overrides.
So I think this will be a spec change, and the API may not necessarily change. I don't know is it have any impact on the MicroProfile config. I don't think so. I think it's I know as far as I know MicroProfile metrics, I don't think because that's kind of stabilized, so that's fine. And also MicroProfile health. For others, not sure other spec have any kind of direct impact on this. So I would suggest to have an issue open on the MicroProfile health to talk about it, to see how best to proceed with it.
So how do we deal with this in other specs that kind of have endpoints as well, right? Whether it's metrics or whatever, or
So
telemetry.
for actually the other thing I was wrong saying just metrics and health also has a MicroProfile open API. And in that spec, there's spec language to talk about multi apps. So basically, there's some suggestions for the multiple apps. But for that is optional because the kind of the not replicable to other kind of the runtimes may not want to support it.
Yeah,
But-
well, right.
Sorry, my question then is if we are going then to drop the requirement for single application, then we should have a TCKs that are testing those scenarios, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this is definitely going to change testing scenarios.
So that with that kind of this is a bit tricky to make it more mandatory, because with this and this automatically kind of exclude some runtimes, such as Quarkus and Halidon, do not support this kind of multiple apps. So in order to pass this test, so they cannot be used for ratifying implementations. So this is a kind of the tricky bit. Or maybe what OpenAPI has done is makes sense, make the test basically if the runtime support multiple apps, you must pass this. Otherwise, yeah, not replicable. In this case, Halidon and Quarkus can skip that.
One thing to consider too when talking about multiple apps is to like clarify that you're likely not referring to ear deployments.
No year.
Yeah,
No
so I mean, yeah, that'll open a can of worms I don't think we want to go into.
multiple modules. Yeah.
But if people see multiple applications, I just my concern would be that I can just package up an ear with multiple wars in it and it'll just work, which in theory it could, but being explicit about not supporting ears might be advisable.
Yeah, year is old-fashioned.
Sorry, I've got wording it that I don't like, right? We were thinking about Quarkus at one point being the compatible implementation for 7.1, right? Didn't work out, but the wording, basically what I'm trying to convey is if you have optional features in a spec, like multiple app deployments, right? Then could any single app stack ever be used as a compatible implementation to ratify a spec? And it's the word ratify I don't like, right?
I see what you're saying though, because if they
So-
pass, it's not
'Cause we don't
necessarily
have
passing
reference, yeah,
everything.
we don't have a reference implementation anymore, right? We don't use the word
Right.
reference implementation. It's compatible implementation. So it's like, well, well, I could still say, I don't know. Maybe it'll just leave.
Yeah, basically the ratifying implementation typically has to pass optional specs
Yes.
as well.
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
So Wildfly, Open Liberty, Pyara, right? Could all do it. Timey
Right.
Tribe, but not the single app stacks. Who else is in this boat? Actually, Pyara Micro supports multiple apps, doesn't it? I think they. I can't remember.
Yeah. If I'm not wrong, we are supporting that. Yeah.
Okay. So it's just maybe Helidon and Quarkus that are kind of like strictly single app stacks. Not that there couldn't be others in the future as well. So these are issues. Other specs. So we brought up OpenAPI. Has some verbiage. I think I'm gonna go back and review that. Telemetry.
No, telemetry has no such concept. So the specs that have this impact is that have an endpoint. So telemetry didn't have an endpoint.
There's no tracing
Doesn't have
endpoint.
an endpoint. Huh?
there's no tracing endpoint, so you can't trace on an app specific basis. It's just a global.
No, so basically it's when I said endpoint is I was saying the spec introduced the endpoint. So such as like metrics or open API basically aggregate all the kind of applications per server to display them. And for health, aggregate all the application liveness to display them. So basically the spec, but the tracing, yeah, it can trace many endpoint. But what I'm saying is the MicroProfile telemetry itself doesn't introduce any endpoint. So back to the previous discussion about optional tests. So I know there's a kind of in the Jakarta land we discuss a lot about optional tests, but I think in MicroProfile we never mandate the option test must be passed for the ratifying implementations. I know is we have been Liberty is pretty much is has all the kind of the passed all the tests, including the option ones, but that's no requirement for them for the certification purpose. And we didn't clarify on the ratification kind of cases whether we must we kind of mandate they must pass or not.
Okay.
So, yeah, one thing is one suggestion is maybe in the ratifying implementation that option tests do not need to pass. So anyway, there's a kind of something we could think about that.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is reply to the Google group thread, right? Point to the meeting minutes. So it sounds like, right, we got open API, for sure. Not open API, I meant health, maybe open API, maybe metrics if there's a desire for, people that can still have metrics implementations to go back and update that. It's a standalone spec now, right? It's not in kind of the platform spec. So, but it's still an option if folks want to go back and do that. So that's one is the scope. The second is determining compatible implementations to ratify a spec. That's the second. That's a new one. I hadn't really thought of either. And then the third one is this is something we would want to try and tackle before we've finalized this discussion about MicroProfile moving to Jakarta. It's leveraged work if that were to happen, but the overhead isn't necessarily leveraged, right? The value is leveraged, but not necessarily the fact that it would be overhead of coming, just going through the motions of, updating specs. So,
I kind of yeah, I do not know how much value it will add. So by the way, I put the open API verbiage about multiple apps on the chat. So that's kind of what open API has done. Basically, multiple app as a one paragraph for the suggestions for the multiple apps. I don't even know there's a test. I don't think there's a test even for multiple apps. The other suggestions, I think this is kind of, anyway, I think this is still anti-pattern for the kind of the containerization because it's like a per image per app. With that, I wouldn't want to spend any extra effort on this, to be honest.
from a container perspective, I think you're right. What generally, but there's still VMs, right? There's still a lot of VM usage out there, which is like even um, um, Red Hat, right? Has supports VMs in in Kubernetes because there's just such a huge install base out there. So uh, it's a good question. You know, people have kind of been working around it in their implementations. Um, if people think this is just spinning our wheels for not a lot of value, that's okay. Um, just trying to kind of have the conversation to see what people think.
Yeah, it's
We-
worth a discussion. Yeah, just to see who is going to work on it. I know, John, we discussed this, and then at first I thought this is was a good idea to have this clarified. The more we discuss, I think it's a long effort. So yeah,
Would it be a major or minor release? Like if we change the behavior of the endpoint that's outlined, it would be a major
yeah, if we
release.
yeah, the other tricky bit is on the previous because it's some runtime already specified their behavior already. Now we standardize it. If it's kind of they kind of match, that's fine. If they don't match, create a more kind of the major release for them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, yeah, understandable. Okay, so I think I'll reply to the discussion thread in the Google group, kind of saying, you know, here's what we discussed during the call, and get people's feedback. Actually, I want to get the recording up there too. Okay, and then I can link to the recording. All right, that's kind of all I had on this topic. Anyone else want to bring up anything on this topic before I bring up the tutorial?
I'm just gonna say that we've actually gone through this exercise pretty recently in Wildfly, so I might be able to look at some documents and kind of see if we have any good information in there about what APIs kind of we had issues with.
You mean health specifically, or all the MicroProfile?
All of them,
Okay.
the whole thing,
That would be
to
really
have
valuable.
multiple deployments work.
Okay. Yeah, that would be, I think, very valuable. So
Yeah, we have a document somewhere. I just don't know exactly where it's at.
okay.
Probably in one of my hundreds of tabs open.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so and then the last topic is the MicroProfile tutorial, which is officially complete. So one of the things we wanted to talk about, I was going to reach out, Tabang, to to get Tarun kind of paid. Do I reach out to Clark, or do I reach out to Sharon? Who would I reach out, or you? Who would I reach out on that?
Who have you dealt with in the past around, because it's not the first time?
Well, from the tutorial perspective, you know, coming up with it and you know the idea and moving forward was kind of Clark. But typically, when it comes to budgetary items, um, it's been Sharon. But actually, I can't. I personally haven't really dealt with like paying vendors. Like Amelia has done that, and I think Emerson's done that, right? In the context of swag and all that kind of stuff, working with the Eclipse Foundation and that. I think it might have been through Sharon. I can't remember. Um, so, but we could take it offline. I just want to make sure.
Reaching out to Clark makes the most sense.
Okay,
But
I'll start there.
it's not the first time, so I think we should follow, like, I think we paid Tarun previous year, right? So.
Okay. I just want, yeah, I just want to see what the status is, if you know, if there was a down payment and all that. I can't remember. It started like 18 months ago at this point. So, I'll ping Clark and I'll CC you. We'll start there.
Sure.
All right, and I'll CC Emily as well. We can just kind of follow through on that. Okay. The other thing we talked about during the marketing call yesterday was updating the tutorial. So it's currently MicroProfile 6.1. We're talking about updating it to 7.1, which would mean adding a chapter on telemetry, maybe moving metrics to the suffix or something, and then get a price on that, and then also get additional / separate pricing if we wanted to include GraphQL and or reactive messaging, right? And depending on that, we would, make a decision and then put a time frame on it and kind of try to hold to that time frame. Hopefully, it would be by the end of the calendar year, regardless. We'll see. And then that kind of begs the question. It's like, what's our current budget status? Because we've only got so much money in discretionary budget, which I think is it 5K for marketing? I think is our overall budget. So we should probably ping, and typically we work with Sharon on that, right? Hey, what do we do? Okay, thanks, Nicole.
Yeah.
So I can get a status of our budget, and we could see what we could do there as it relates to the tutorial, and if we have to allocate some of next year's budget to the tutorial as well, if we can't really cover it all this year. Maybe begin the work this year and kind of schedule out next year's budget and see if there's an approach that we could do there. So that's kind of what I've got for today's call. Does anyone else want to follow up on this topic or have any other topics? All right, cool. All right, hey, thanks everyone for joining the call. A little bit of a light turnout, but I understand PTOs and conferences going on right now. So next week is the technical call. So hopefully see everyone at the technical call.
Oh, we have to normally we have a few kind of weeks off during holidays, right?
We did do that last year, didn't we? Not, I would say typically. I think we did it for like 1 or 2 years.
Yes.
We could decide to take was it just the technical calls or was it also the live hangouts?
I think both have a kind of few weeks off.
Well, we could take off we could talk about taking off the remainder of July.
Yeah.
I think that's not a bad idea because of this very problem, right? Attendance is low.
Yeah, I'm away next week anyway, and a week after.
All right, yeah, exactly. Okay. So you're the problem.
Yeah, I'm the problem.
Just don't take PTO. Okay. All right, I'll in fact right after this call, I'll start a thread on this in the group, and then I'm assuming we'll get enough interest to get a decision one way or the other.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.